Good morning, dear students, and welcome to today's session. Today, we are going to continue with our discussion of the play The Merchant of Venice, Act 1, Scene 2. And as said in the previous class, today we are going to discuss about the different suitors who had come to Belmont to take part in the lottery of casket. So, in the previous class, I had informed you that as many as 6 suitors had come to Belmont to participate in the lottery of caskets, and when Nerissa asked Portia that what warmth did she have for all those princely suitors who had already come to Belmont to take part in the lottery of the casket. In return to her query, Portia asked Nerissa to name the suitors one by one, and she would give a description of them. And through the description that is given by Portia, Nerissa can very well fathom about Portia's warmth and affection for those princely suitors. In other words, the way Portia describes those suitors clearly indicates that she did not have any liking for any of those suitors who had come to Belmont. So she describes each of them in a very satirical tone, in a very humorous way, which clearly indicates that she had no liking for any of those suitors who had come. So the first one that Nerissa names is the Neapolitan prince. So the Neapolitan prince means the prince who was from Naples. And what does Portia say about this Neapolitan prince? He says, "Aye, that is a colt indeed." So he describes the Neapolitan prince as a colt. A colt is a young horse. Now, when a horse is very young, at its young age, the horse is very inexperienced. So therefore, the term colt is used to describe an inexperienced young man, just like a young horse. So she feels, or she is of the opinion, that the Neapolitan prince is an inexperienced young man. And we should also remember that the Neapolitan, the people who belong to Naples, or the Neapolitans, they were famous for being excellent horsemen. So they were known for their excellent horsemanship skills. So this Neapolitan prince who had come to participate in the lottery of casket, he was also an excellent horseman. So therefore, Portia makes fun of this Neapolitan prince by saying that, "For he doth nothing but talk of his horse." So this Neapolitan prince, he is not interested in any other conversation but only talks of his horse. So imagine a young prince who has come to marry Portia, and when he is courting Portia, he must praise Portia, he must admire the beauty of Portia, but instead of doing that, what he does, he only talks about his horse, which is very dull and boring to a beautiful lady like that of Portia, because Portia is not interested at all to know about his skills as a horseman. And he makes it a great appropriation to his own good parts that he can shew himself. So the Neapolitan prince praises himself, and he makes it a great appropriation, means he presents it as an addition to his own merit, that he can even shoe his horse himself. He does not need the help of anyone. He can shoe the horse himself. He can put the nails in the feet of the horse by himself. So she rejects the Neapolitan prince, or she describes the Neapolitan prince in a way that he is very inexperienced young man. He is not at all romantic in his nature, because he hardly talks about anything else. He is only interested in talking about his horse, and he makes it appear as an additional merit to him that he can himself shoe his horse. And Portia even very satirically comments that she fears that the mother of the Neapolitan prince had a passing affair with the blacksmith. Why? Because he can shoe his horse himself. So that way she satirically describes the Neapolitan prince. The next suitor is the County Palatine. Now we need to understand county. Actually the word comes from the word count. Count here it means the count from the Palatinate. The count from the Palatinate. The Palatinate was a region on the west bank of the river Rhine, and the count means a local ruler or a nobleman. So when Nerissa named County Palatine, Portia describes the County Palatine thus. She says, "He doth nothing but frown. He doth nothing but frown. He is a man of frowning nature, and he always complains about different things in his life. He is never happy in his life. He always frowns, he always complains, he frets, and he is a man of frowning nature. And as who should say, and you will not have me choose." Okay. And you will not have me choose means as if he were to say that if Portia will not marry him, then he can choose. And he hears merry tales and smiles not. He is a man of such frowning nature, such gloomy nature, that no matter how many happy stories we tell to him, but he will never smile. He never has a cheerful smile on his face. And it is because of the frowning nature of the County Palatine that Portia fears that when he grows up, he will turn out to be the weeping philosopher. When he grows old, he will turn out to be the weeping philosopher. We need to understand that who is the weeping philosopher. Here Portia makes a reference to Heraclitus of Ephesus. And Heraclitus of Ephesus, he was so much fed off, distressed of this world, that he went to live alone in the mountains. So he was a man of such gloomy nature that he was very disappointed, distressed with the world of human beings, and therefore he went to lead a life of seclusion on the mountains. So therefore Portia fears that this County Palatine is of such frowning nature that he may also turn out to be the weeping philosopher when he grows old, because he is so much filled of unpleasant gloom in his youthful days. And Portia even says that she would rather prefer to get married to a death's head with a bone in his mouth. Now death's head with a bone in its mouth, actually it means a skull. Death's head means a skull, and it stands for the emblem of a skull with the two bones crossed underneath, and it was actually known as or referred to as the death's head. Now Portia says that she would be glad to get married with the death's head instead of getting married with any of these two suitors that she had described so far. So she feels that instead of getting married to the Neapolitan prince or the County Palatine, it would be greater for her to get married to a death's head with a bone in its mouth. And she prays that may God protect her from these two suitors. Okay. And then Nerissa names the third suitor, that is the French lord Monsieur Le Bon. Now when she inquires Portia about the French lord Monsieur Le Bon, now Monsieur Le Bon actually literally it means Sir the Good, and Sir the Good is a satirical expression of the traditional, affected and vivacious Frenchman. And it is noteworthy to see how Portia describes this French lord. She says, God made him and therefore let him pass for a man. Okay. So according to Portia, the French lord is not at all fit to be considered even a man. he can be considered as a man only because of the reason that God made him. That is the reason why he should be accepted as a man. Otherwise, he has no other qualities which could describe him as a man. And Portia, when she says this, actually what is she doing? She is mocking at the French Lord. And she knows that to mock at others is a sin. But she cannot help it. Whenever she sees French Lord, she feels like mocking at him. Why he hath a horse better than the Neapolitans, a better bad habit of frowning than the Count Palatine. He is every man in no man. So the French people, they always used to imitate the custom, the manners, disposition of the people of other countries. And that is the reason why the French lord, he had imitated the quality of being a horseman from the Neapolitan prince, and he has imitated the frowning nature of the Count Palatine, and he boasts of it. He talks even more of his horse than the Neapolitan prince. He frowns even more than the Count Palatine. So he has a more exaggerated bad habit of frowning than the Count Palatine. So he imitated the Neapolitan prince and the Count Palatine. And that is what makes Portia say, comment that he is every man in no man. So in fact, the French lord has everybody else's characteristics but no personality of his own, because they used to imitate the people of other places. And he is of such foolish nature that even if a throstle sings, what is a throstle? A thrush, which is a common English bird. She says that even when the French lord listens to the sound of a thrush, he immediately starts capering, means he immediately starts jumping up and down to the music of a thrush. Now when you listen to the sound of a nightingale or a cuckoo, which are known for their melodious voices, and if you start jumping up and down to the music of the birds of cuckoo and nightingale, it can be comprehended. It is understandable that you are so much influenced by the music. But in India, you see, crow is a common bird which can be found everywhere. Now if a person starts jumping up and down to the music of a crow or to the cawing of a crow, how will you describe that man? That he is of such foolish nature. So the French lord, he was of such foolish nature that he used to jump up and down even at the sound of a thrush, which was a common bird found in England. And since he used to copy, imitate the habits, the manner of the people of other countries, that is what makes Portia say that if she should ever marry the French lord, it would mean that she will have 20 husbands, because every now and then he would be changing his manners and his habits. And if the French lord despises Portia, if the French lord hates Portia, then Portia would be glad to forgive him, because she does not expect any type of love from the French lord. But if the French lord loves Portia to madness, if he loves Portia passionately, then Portia will never be able to return his love, because how can a lady love 20 people at the same time? So he has the habit of 20 different people. So that is the reason why Portia says that she will never be able to repay his love. So there are still 3 more suitors left. That we'll do in the next video.